What's up, y'all? We'll do it. We'll grab Frank the guitar. We'll do some kind of little intro rifferoonie, dude, for a second before we get into this episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. I'll just rip through something so fast, dude, because I'm like a guitar player. There we go. So we call the unconventional riff from episode 41 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. All right, man, we're here. Today is the 20th of January, 2025. As far as I'm aware, it's the 20th. It's the, could be the 21st. It's a Monday. So you look at your calendars, go back, to find whatever today was that was today. Now, this is the podcast. We are in the Image Clothing Company. Let's get into this. Frank the guitar, let me give a little shout out to Yamaha. I don't have any affiliation with them as of this time period that I'm speaking out of, which is today. But maybe someday, who knows, and regardless, I just love this guitar. It's a CGS 102A with a custom radius done by me in the fretboard and the saddle and the nut, and it's awesome. So, In the Image Clothing Company allows the body to work. The human body is what we address. Our podcast here has discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's the point of this here podcast. But we're still in the Image Clothing Company as we come through this avenue. We have three sides to us. The third is the music side of things. Simply put, it's In the Image Clothing Company music. And Frank the guitar is my current guitar, and he's awesome. I make some cool music over there. Check it out. Then we also just have what I call the main company side of things, which is the other third of us. And I discuss what clothing does to the human body. It doesn't matter where on this earth that we've been given that you live, you're still a human being, man. Doesn't matter what you look like or where you came from on this planet, you're one of us. So, clothing that we wear will do things to our bodies that's unnatural, because if you think about an animal that doesn't wear clothing, there's nothing placed on it to alter its body. But humans, we are different than animals, and we just about always have clothing on. And they're altering our bodies, the clothing that we wear. If it's not centered, if it's oversized, if there's any ropes involved, shoelaces, drawstrings, and they're not tied in a way that's allowing the body to stay centered, then it won't be able to, because those things are just placed on it. So that's what we do. I discuss the anatomy of the human body. We always use the word allow. We don't have exercises. We don't have stretches. We don't have diets or anything that we tell people to do. But we discuss more things than just clothing. Sleeping, eating naturally, positions of the body when it sits. Like, I'm on the floor right now, not in a chair height type seat. So we just keep the body natural. That's the goal. And yeah, so clothing for everybody. Doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, from any part of the earth. Clothing needs to sit on your body just where it's going to hinge and pivot and move and operate, because we use the skeletal system as our approach for the human body, because all the musculature does is just operate the skeletal system, and the fat content just comes and goes. So yeah, it's about a position, and that's what we focus on. So being designed in the image of our living God, Jesus the Christ, is how we are all the same. That's why we are called In the Image Clothing Company. Okay. Now, let's get into this. Centered on the gospel of Jesus Christ. Yeah, so our pants need to be, for everybody, all the way above our hips, with that waistline for the pants, so that they're off the hips, and the hips can just move naturally and just work. But the angle needs to be slightly higher in the front than in the rear. And it's a very slight when I say that, but it is slightly higher because the muscles of our core, like the center of our abdomen in the front of us, needs to stay activated. That's the whole center to us. And it would always be that way unless there was something placed on us altering our bodies. And that's what pants are. So, yeah. They need to be on the angle that they're going to be in to allow the body to work. Now, with the shirts that we wear, the tops that we have, the top seams of the tops that we wear need to sit behind that little bone that's up on our shoulders. That's the other end of our collarbones. And that allows our shoulders to just be in that neutral position that they have. And then for the edge seams, just right at the very edges of those shoulders, because that's where the shoulder moves, hinges, and rotates in that ball and socket joint of the shoulder. Yeah. Now, in addition to just where clothing sits naturally, we have two prerequisites just to allow the body to stay natural, stay unaltered. The first one's our shoelacing technique, which you find where you find In The Image Clothing Company anywhere on the internet in 2025. Included with the technique is to tie your shoes evenly over toward the inside on both feet, toward the center of your body, because that way you have an even center line traveling up the rest of you. And secondly, we say, not just that we say it, but it has to happen if you want your body to be able to just work natural. Remove all tags from inside clothing because it's causing a gap behind your head / neck / spine, right? The rear of your collar of your shirt, there's a tag there on your spine. It's going to just give you what people call bad posture, meaning it's just going to alter the way your body works. Anywhere within clothing, there's a tag. It needs to be removed. Even in the shoes, because it affects the dorsiflexion or plantar flexion of your ankle or those naturally gripped arches of the feet. So there we go. There's some basic foundational stuff to just allow the body to just be what it is, because it only does what it does. We can't get it to do anything, and we sure don't want to be restricting it from doing things if it just has one way of operating. So let's do these things because they do what they do, not because Evan Strong is saying so. Now, yeah, it's a Monday. It's a big day for me, and the reasons as to why don't matter to anybody else, but it's a big day. And it's gonna be a heavy hitting podcast episode. Seriously. Okay. I'm just not sure what I'm gonna title this yet, and I say the titles within the episode. So, yeah. I'm gonna sit on this for a second because it's real. It's a hard-hitting one, like I said. So, might be a few hours even. Hey, cool. Might be not quite that long. Either way, it is what it is, and it's gonna be a good one. I'm not delaying. I'm not stalling. I am sitting in this because there might be some times throughout this episode where it's pretty darn quiet, if you will. Like chilled, laid back. So a lot of times I say buckle up, but for this one it's a different kind of buckle up. Buckle up as in just like, hey, get content, because it might be a really calm, smooth rolling kind of episode. And that's good. So, yeah. What this is going to be titled is A Grasp on Reality. And I'm not going to come out of this out of like trying to tell you how you should see what reality is, because really there's only one reality. There's only one truth. And I'm not telling you that. Don't believe me, I say, right? Within the stuff that I say within the company, I always say, don't believe me. I'm just here relaying truth, but I'm a sinful by nature human being that messes up. There's only one truth, and it is our God, Jesus the Christ. And Frank's got a lot of biblical stuff written on him. He really does. Frank the guitar. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. The truth of all things. Sitting here and just realizing how blessed I am with what I have and where I am and how I'm allowed to be here after what I've done. So, a grasp on reality. Something I didn't have for years. Yeah. We're going to approach this for a few different ways, from a few different sides, as I do within these episodes. Physical things, spiritual things, clothing. It's going to be huge because this is real. The groundedness that I have right now. Before I started filming this, I was sitting here for, a little while. And just very calm, very much back home. A place that I wasn't at for a while. And home is the presence of our God. And it's a place that we can dwell within this life. Okay. If you've heard about the word disassociation, or if you have been the one who has been disassociated, that's really what it means by saying that you've kind of lost touch with reality. The word disassociation is kind of explained like sitting there but not feeling like you're quite here, right? Being unpresent, feeling a little bit out of it. That's something that can happen for a lot of different reasons. I've been on medications in my life that have done that. There are times in my life I didn't turn to our almighty God the ways that I should have. And I put my trust in worldly things, and I was on mental health medication for a period of time years ago. And that kind of stuff just alters your body, and it can make you feel quite disassociated. There's a lot of things that can make you feel that way. Eating stuff that is just really unnatural can make you feel very out of it because your body doesn't know how to process something that's not meshing with natural, because your body is. Getting our bodies into positions where their natural functions aren't working, nervous system processes are being pinched and cut off, circulation of our blood is being cut off, certain muscles are being turned off, and really the big thing is just keeping our core naturally activated, and you're not going to be able to do that if your clothing is not fitting you correct, because it's going to just pull your body out of its only working position. I always say the words neutral and natural within the human body are synonyms, and the body just works out of its neutral position and then comes back to it after it performs a function, like a reach, right? You reach forward, you step out of your neutral position, and then when you come back from reaching, now you're back into your neutral position. That position people call good posture is just a position that the body uses the least amount of energy in to stay vertical, right? So anything that's pulling you out of that can make you feel disassociated. Shoes laced incorrect and tied incorrect. That natural gripped arch that directly correlates with the natural open palm. And that rounding, I always say, rounding within our hands that's naturally there. The rounding within that gripped arch, as far as the arch itself under the foot. If those things are being inhibited, using things that are flat with our round hands, I've mentioned people's hands become so close to flat because they're using flat things, and we don't have an option. All it means is that they're in such a chronically poor pattern of working improperly. And those things will just have the potential to make you feel so out of it, so disassociated, make you feel like you've lost touch with what's actually real, because there's so much tension within your body in those cases, and functions just aren't allowed to do the only thing they do. That's why the word is allow. So here's one really big physical thing that is so common in 2025 and has been for the past 15-ish years. Touch screens. Our bodies need to feel like they're actually touching what they're touching. So on the main company side of things, in the Image Clothing Company, I made a video in the fall or early winter of 2024, and I titled it How Cell Phones Affect Body Mechanics. That's my wording for those type of videos. If it's clothing, normally I'll say how blank affects body mechanics and put an item of clothing in that blank. And I discussed that when we use modern technology with a smart screen, I was going to say with a smartphone, it's most common that we're using smartphones out of technology that has a touchscreen, because that's something that almost everybody has at this time period, and they're all so similar. I talked about how we need to turn up that, well, I guess it would actually be turning down the touch sensitivity, whatever end you want to phrase it on, turning up the amount of pressure you have to push to get it to register your touch, whatever end you word it, to say we need to be able to actually be putting in some effort with our thumb to touch these touch screens or any of our fingers. So making it so the device is less responsive to our touch, so that we're actually touching it to get it to work. Because that's a physical, literal, lost touch on your grasp of what reality is. I have had a smartphone since I was 13 years old, and my age is the same as the year for 6 months of it. It's the year 2025, and I'm 25 years old. My birthday is in July, so it's July 5th, if anybody wants to know, just because I'm not gonna like hide what my birthday is. I was gonna just not say it, but there'd be no reason not to. Yeah. So somewhere around 2012, 2013, 2011, maybe even a few years earlier, maybe somewhere around that time is when they started to come out with smartphones with touchscreens. And I had my first smartphone when I was 13, so it would have been right in 2012, 2013. Now, that's been about 12 or 13 years since that point. And yeah. In all that time, a lot of times I was using a screen protector, which is beneficial because now you're not touching glass, you're touching either that plastic material it's made out of or just another layer of glass on top of the screen itself, and that will just have it be slightly less responsive, and that's a good thing for the human body. But that wasn't enough to actually make it feel like I'm touching the screen. But it was better than nothing. It's unfortunate, man. I don't know how to even approach this, because there's a lot more than that. You know, the cell phone's also flat on the back and on the front, and our hands are not anywhere near that. Also, using one that's so thick, you know, I had a cell phone and then I put a pretty thick case on it to protect it. I mean, I've had multiple cell phones, probably somewhere around 10 in that amount of time, at least. And the thicker you get between your fingers and your own thumb, you're getting farther away from yourself. our hands need to touch. The thumbs need to mesh with the fingers, and that's what I show, is that's where that rounding is. You clasp your fingers around your thumbs, and there you go. There's a rounding to your fingertips and the back of your hands. Naturally, that's just how it works. That's how the hands work. That's something we get so out of touch with, and then we just feel like we don't know what's real anymore. So there's a combination of those things happening within using modern cell phones at this time. And it just stiffens up the forearms like crazy. I made a video for the main company site of In the Image Clothing Company titled How Clothing Affects the Forearms. And that's what I discussed, is the outside of that forearm gets so bound up, muscle adheres to the bone from being used in positions that's not natural at all. Our thumbs get so inhibited, but it's not the thumb's fault. It's because we're using something so flat. So the pinky and the pointer finger are being pressed to be in line with the middle two fingers, and that's not how the hand works. And so the thumb can't even reach to get to those fingers because they're just being pushed out of their normal position. So the thumb's compensating. Plus, if you're just using your thumb on something that has no texture and is so responsive that you almost don't even feel like you're touching it and it's registering it, then your thumb just gets used in a way that's so unnatural. There's so much curve to the thumb, and we're using our fingertips with not long enough nails. I always discuss how the nails need to be clear to the ends of our fingertips to fully support them. That is the function of our fingernails. And then we cut them straight on the tips so that way they can have a nice clean cut support, and they don't roll that way. When they're not cut rounded, then our fingers have so much natural support. It is just unreal if you're not used to it. I wasn't until I started doing that. So there's all that happening with just using a cell phone, and plus the lip on the case of the phone to protect the screen. Now you're using your thumb to try to get around that, and your thumb works like straight out in line to touch the pads of your thumbs with the pads of your fingertips. And that's something that just isn't allowed to happen with a cell phone. So yeah, I say, I show we need to have our phones as thin as they can possibly be to get our hands as close to themselves as we can, our thumbs as close to our fingers, but then have a slight rounding to the back of them so that our fingers can have that natural rounding to keep that open palm, which directly correlates with the arches of our feet. So people's shoulders are in terrible positions nowadays, and they're so low. Their upper traps, which is that muscle that connects the base of the rear of the skull to the shoulder and lifts and lowers your shoulders like a shrug, those muscles are entirely inhibited. The forearms are losing rotation. The whole body is just so inhibited. So much so. It'll put the whole side that you're using the phone on most in external rotation. And that's probably the same shoe that you're tying into external rotation if you tie your shoes unevenly. So all this stuff that I have discussed since I've been talking about this stuff at the founding of In the Image Clothing Company last fall. It's sad because people don't know these things. Also, just staring into this bright little device, this unnatural, fake, artificial, man-made light coming out of a flat little box in our hands. The brightness needs to be the same as our environment around us, or slightly dimmer. Otherwise, there's this random beaming light coming out of our palm. Yeah. The jaw gets affected because the hand's so altered using a cell phone in modern 2025 and around this time. If the jaw is affected, the cartilage within the ears change, and then That changes the way the jaw sits. The cartilage within the nose will change because we're always looking down and looking to the right if it's in our right hand, or looking to the left only if it's in our left hand most always. So the cartilage on our nose will grow toward that side because as we breathe, it's just everything's imbalanced within the body. The muscles on our face, our eyes, and our smiles become crooked toward that side more than they already are just from shoelaces and things like the dreaded collar seam and t-shirts that we have a modification for I talk about, right? Everything, oversized clothing, it's going to fall to the same side you're using that device on because you're looking over to that side and your hand's in nowhere near a naturally functioning position to even keep your shoulder even with the other one, so it's going to be dropped. Gosh. Anyway, I mean, I can get so deep in all that's happening within that, but that stuff we'll just talk about as we need to. I don't talk about technology very much at all because it's going to change. But what does last for a while is the patternings that our physical bodies get into from using something so unnatural. And people don't know that that's what's actually causing it. So, yeah, people are so weak physically, and it's not something they're even aware of, but we're doing the things that I just described, and is just weakening our bodies. So I am just currently naturally stronger than most people that are going to the gym. And it's not a comparison, but if you are just taking part in stuff that's just not allowing your body to do its only function, then going to the gym to try to get it to do something out of that position is just further damaging your body. So I noticed that, like carrying tables. I'll be over at Institute for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I'll just be helping to clean up, right? Everybody just helps. Well, the people who help put tables and chairs away after. And I just notice how other people's bodies function versus how mine does. And I'm not different other than I'm intentional. So that's what we're doing. That's what In The Image Clothing Company is. And you can tell my countenance, you can tell how real this is. People are very out of touch with our God. So another physical thing is the tags in our clothing, the stretch within our clothing, the material within our clothing. If there's tags and they're slippery, there's nothing in nature that's going to feel the same that a slippery tag does placed against your skin. And the body's only natural. You don't get to have a say, and neither do I. There's nothing stretchy within nature the way that there's stretch within our clothing that's placed on us, encapsulating us, and that we're trying to react to and keep our muscles activated against when they can't predict it. The materials we are placing on our body are oil. Polyester is oil. I've mentioned this many times within the podcast, many times within the main company side of things, and it's just what it is. So things like that are just going to cause your body to feel so out of balance and potentially make you feel like you don't even know what's real anymore because you're literally encapsulating your body in fake. So it's not your fault because it wasn't mine either. We don't know what we don't know, but that's why we are what we are in the Image Clothing Company. So we have to just keep our bodies working in the only way they do. People are so out of touch. It's very unfortunate. That pinky finger affects the entire body. And if it's not allowed to be just naturally working, then there goes your whole body. Seriously. Neutral wrist is straight out from the pinky, as I discuss. And yeah, so hits me, man. It hits me really hard because how am I somebody who gets to know these things, you know? Well, the dreaded collar seam, I mentioned it. This seam right here, if you're watching this in visual, seam up on the t-shirt, collar. If you're just listening, you can get from that what you need to. We have our modification for it, like I mentioned. Otherwise, your shoulders are just uneven, your breathing has changed, and your whole body is just changed from a small seam on the collar of your shirt that has been in clothing designs for decades. Yeah, I mean, you watch movies from like pre-2000s for sure, and they have that seam there. So, yeah. Because as a human being, our quote-unquote reality is this physical world. And our physical bodies are the only things that we actually have as a human being. Because we're spirit children of our living God, above being a human being, and that came before. But in this life, that's what we are, is a physical body. There's no emotions unless we have a body to feel them through. And people are feeling so much emotional disconnect. And they don't know why. Just like I didn't when I was taking those medications, like that was gonna do something. I want to say this boldly. If you're taking medication for mental health reasons, it's not gonna help you. Don't believe me? But our God will. And In the Image Clothing Company will do all that we can to keep continuing to just share truth. You don't have to come find us physically and sit in a clinic so we can diagnose your body. We're just sitting here on the floor talking about truth. You have every access to it that I do, being the founder, or that anybody on the team does as our team grows. Any part of the world, you just need understanding, you just need truth. And the only place you'll ever actually find that is our God. And he's not limited to a part of the world, a part of our earth, a certain person, a certain race, a certain age. You're not limited because people around you are calling you a kid and you feel like there's certain things that people are telling you have to wait to have access to until you're an adult. This isn't one of those things. Never could it be. So we're speaking truth, giving it to the world, giving it to the earth, giving it to the human beings that need it, giving it to those people who feel like they don't even know anymore. They're looking around and everything seems fake, and everything seems to change all the time, and it all seems like an opinion. And whose do you listen to? Not mine, please. Don't listen to me. Don't believe me, at least. Please. The body needs texture, because there's always naturally texture. Even ice has more texture to it than something like a smartphone screen. There's nothing in nature that we would be in contact with that's anything like our modern man-made world. And it's really unfortunate. Yeah. Yeah, when I was taking mental health medications for anxiety, depression, they labeled it all sorts of things. They said that I had bipolar 2 disorder and panic disorder. They used all those terms. Really what they were saying is, hey, you're going through stuff that you don't understand, and we also don't understand it, so we don't know how to help you. So take this medication and have it alter your body. The whole thing is, my body and my whole existence as a human being was so altered. And so I was experiencing a lot of that, but also just, we go through warfare as children of our God, trying to fight just the evils of this world and trying to be a disciple of a perfect being when we're making mistakes and not sure how to really understand that at times. That can just be a lot to deal with. But the whole thing is, we're given this body to work as it is. And so everything that we do to it to try to get it to work better won't. We just have to get it back to natural. It's not some claim, it's not some belief. Yeah. But if you don't know that your whole day, your feet are being pulled in different directions because you're just tying a knot that's different on different feet. And if you don't know that your spine, which is the center of your nervous system for your whole body, where your spinal cord stems every function in your body from your brain, and on that you're placing plastic, which is just melted down and shaped oil that's seeping into your body and affecting it. We don't know these things if we don't, and I didn't. If you don't know that you have to be able to elevate your shoulders to a degree that you might be very out of touch with, just to get your shoulder blades and collarbones in a position where your rib cage can expand to just breathe the only way your body is designed to, and wearing oversized clothing is pulling you down physically in a way that you can't do anything about, nor could I. When we don't know these things, then life can seem pretty scary. Yeah. Sure can, man. Sure did for me. When you don't know where to put your trust in a world full of human beings, and I've mentioned this, that no human being can actually be fully trusted. Doesn't matter how trustworthy you are, but you are a conditional being that can't guarantee you can hold up your end of the bargain, because even if you would say, no matter what, I'll do this until the death of me, well, if you die before it happens, that was out of your control. So, not knowing where to put your trust is something that can make you feel like you don't even know what's real when people are telling you different things left and right. That's how it's always been. for us human beings. We can only trust the one that we can't fully comprehend in this life. But he is perfect, and he is the only thing that's actually real, and the only thing that's actually unchanging. He knows everything. Yeah, if you want to touch reality, if you want to grasp on it, if you want to know what's there and real and can never leave, and what never changes and what can never be swayed or lost, forgotten in a way that could never be remembered again, because you can sure forget. I have. But the gospel of Jesus Christ, it's the only real that there actually is. Don't believe me. Yeah. There's this beautiful book titled The Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ. Yeah. That's where you'll find it. Yeah, do what we say within the company as far as physically for your body, and don't do it because we say so. I want to help people, man, with their own physical situations. And through doing that, we're always going to be incorporating the gospel of Jesus Christ, and so that will help them with everything. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's actually what I'm going to say for this episode. I think that's as much as I'm going to say within this. So, we will have clothing available. You don't have to buy it by any means, but we'll just have something available that will work and be good. It will be made out of 100% natural materials. What I like to say is staying centered, fitting correct, allowing the body to work. There we go. Buy it in your size, and there you go. Yeah, check out the other two sides of our company if you'd like to. You can benefit from them. The music side of things, if you enjoy music with messages, there you go. If you play guitar and you want to know how to actually set it up in a way that your body works, there you go. And the main company side of things, yeah, that's where you get the depth of the information of the physical body's function and how to just always, keyword, allow the body to work. So, okay, that's it. That's this episode. And the reason I'm saying it like that is because it's so simple. The gospel of Jesus Christ, and just knowing that we don't have control. And that's actually where everything gets easier, is when we understand that. Because that's what it takes, is an understanding of no matter how much we feel like trying to control something might help us, feel like we have a grasp, it's the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ. And surrender is the only way that we can have a grasp on truth. And we serve a God who's perfect. If you've never heard about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's the place to be. If you have heard anything about it, and it maybe doesn't quite sound like it's the place to be, think about those times when you've done all you could to do the right thing, and yet people still said that you were doing things wrong. Usually it's the best things, the most holy and righteous things that get the most negative spoken about them. So, there you go. Today is, like I said, whatever date. It's either the 20th or the 21st of January, 2025. It's a Monday. This is In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. And there really is only one way you're actually going to get a real firm, solid grasp on reality. And it is through Jesus the Christ. Do not believe me. But if you're getting sick of believing things, that probably sounds like a pretty good thing to be hearing from somebody. So, there you go. This is a global thing. In the Image Clothing Company. And it always will be. And we'll never change. So